soon. Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm here today on a Friday with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
Yay! Hey, I feel much better. I don't feel a day over 78.
There you go. There you go.
I'm 2 days over 78.
Nice. Oh, well, happy birthday. I didn't realize
Well,
you
thank you
had your
very
birthday
much.
this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The loving founder of EV World.
You
Yes.
betcha, dadgummit.
Yeah. And in case you folks can't see me clearly, I'm wearing winter camouflage today. So I'm hard
Looks
to see
like
in
you're
the
getting
snow.
ready to go out duck hunting or something.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
out in the snow drifts.
Yep.
Which we never get here. I mean, like one day a year, it might really, when I lived in North Dakota, winter, it was always like the winter apocalypse for like 5 straight months.
Right.
It'd snow around Halloween, and that snow is still on the ground in March. But here, it snows. It goes away within a week.
Yeah, well, I hate to say this, but the pace of climate change, what used to be the weather, I mean, they were forecasting, and I forget exactly when this would happen, but we would start getting the weather winters that they would typically get in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
That frost line just keep moving further and further north. So that's partially why we've had really some of the mild winters. Now, I'm hearing rumors that might not be the case this year. So we'll see what we end up with.
Yeah. I was talking about Oklo. Oklo hit like 140 earlier.
Well, tell us who Oklo is, please.
So Oklo is a SMR nuclear company where the chief investor or the biggest investor is Sam Altman from OpenAI. We show it here on the ticker. It's at $110. It's down almost 8%. It's rolled back from 145 to 110. There was some insider selling, not insider trading, but some insiders said, hey, we're selling some shares. One of them is giving away $3 million worth of stock as a gift. There was a couple other things, and
he didn't give it to us though, I gather.
No, it didn't give it to EV World News. I'm not sure why, but anyways, yeah, but that stock and my own opinion is today's a good day to enter that stock because I see it still going to the moon. I met somebody in California and I don't know how much he put into it. It was probably north of $1 million for his pension fund, but he bought into Oklo at $1.
Oh.
It's down to 110 right now.
Oh, poor boy. Gee.
Yeah, he was good. I mean, yeah, when I told him I was in the SMR nuclear space, he was so excited.
Oh.
He was like, oh my God, I've had 4 home runs in that space. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We have another one on here, NewScale. He was an early investor in NewScale. And there's another one like ASP Isotopes, which is on the New York Stock Exchange, but they are a South African uranium recycler. So they take spent nuclear fuel, put it back in the new nuclear fuel, and ship it back out to which is different. So nuclear waste isn't the same issue in the rest of the world as it is in the United States. And not saying it's perfect in the rest of the world. It's just we don't do it right in the U.S. My friend with Green to Gold, Professor Tratner, sent me something. He's been getting involved in a number of Hawaii. Actually, the state has a Department of Climate Change, as part of the government, and he's been getting involved in that and some other things with the government related to nuclear and geothermal. And some guy gave a presentation hating on nuclear, but he only espoused information from Generation 2 reactors. And like the projects I'm working on are Generation 4 reactors. And he's talking about basically things that happened 40 to 60 years ago. In fact, he was complaining about the radiation from when we destroyed the remaining German surface fleet vessels with nuclear weapons in the 1950s. Remember we tested, I think, a hydrogen bomb on the Prince
Oh,
Eugene.
yeah, out in the
Yeah,
Pacific, yeah.
yeah, and how that has been bad for Pacific Islanders. It was like, well, we didn't know back then. The radiation, I guess, was bad. They didn't figure that out so much, and
Well, we sort of knew that after what happened at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, obviously.
well, you'd think, but they rebuilt those cities. Those cities have both been
Oh, I
completely.
know.
Um, anyways, but it was interesting because I keep hearing regurgitated things. One of the big ones is obviously Fukushima, right? But Fukushima is a Generation 2 reactor. It's really old technology. I mean, they probably, at some point, they need to mothball and get rid of all those Gen 2 reactors, but it's not going to be any day soon. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot of them.
well, how do you mothball something where everything is radioactive?
Yeah.
You do like they did at Chernobyl, and you put a dome over it, and then idiots fire,
Artillery.
drones. They
Mhm.
hit that thing twice with drones. So
Hmm. Yeah, it's just, some of that's just
I
crazy what they're
will,
doing there. I mean, it's
I
amazing that Zaporizhia. I was going to say that there's the Zaporizhia facility is the largest nuclear power plant in Europe,
mhm.
and it somehow, while they said that the cooling towers have been hit by 152 millimeter shelling, um, that is, it's been unusual, and they haven't really been damaged because
Well,
the cooling
and most of
towers
the
are.
and most of those are all. I think those plants have been offline for, and mothballed for some time now, just simply because of the risk. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how much they've shut down that Zaporizhia facility.
I don't think it's producing anything right at the moment.
Oh, and maybe not. Maybe
Yeah,
not. That'd be good if it's not. But
yeah, real good
yeah,
with
yeah,
smart bombs and drones, flying all over, and cruise missiles flying back and forth across the border. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Well, and one of the things I've not been real, there's an obvious taint in our federal government at the moment for love of fossil fuels, and that's a little bit hard to
to say
explain. I
the
mean,
to say the
well,
least. Yeah.
Bill, and you and I both know I approach most of this from an economic perspective, right? And what I
Yep.
don't get is renewables in the rest of the world have proven financially viable. And it's not that they haven't in the United States. Most of the problem with renewables in the United States had to do with bureaucracy, red tape, being able to get the power companies to let the power go online when it should. It's not
Hmm.
that the power itself was operating at a loss. It was
No,
simply that
it's
they haven't been able to.
cheaper.
Yeah, it's simply that they haven't been able to get revenue going before they get shut down by their debtors. The lenders just can't keep waiting for years and years
Yeah, yeah.
for the power companies to let them hook up. But in spite of all this, Morocco is going to
Ah,
sell solar power to Germany.
I could not. And
To
when I thought,
Germany.
well, okay, that's just a short traipse across just through Spain, and then channel it on the Spanish grid to the French grid to the. Oh no,
No,
they're going to put two undersea cables running up the coast of Portugal and Spain and through the Bay of Biscay and around the French coast and around Brittany and then across the top of Normandy and then across the Dutch and the Belgian coastline and finally into Germany 4,500 kilometers later.
yeah, I can't
What?
imagine how much energy they're losing just in transmission going that far. That's a crazy distance. Crazy distance.
Well,
Um,
maybe they're doing, with, I'm hoping maybe it's like DC, high power DC line where there's going to not as much loss as you would want. But yeah, how did that's a hell of a, I mean, we don't have, what about the superconducting cables yet, right? We're still
yes.
going to have to push that through whatever copper or whatever they're going. I can't even imagine. God, what's that going to do to the price of copper?
Oh yeah, I don't know
500
what.
miles of copper. And what's the size? They're probably, they're spun bundles of copper, but gee whiz.
Yeah, those
What,
cables
yeah,
can run about 1.8 gigawatts per cable
yeah.
that it can transmit at a time. It'll be about 5% of Germany's current power consumption. They potentially could scale it from 3.6 gigawatts to 15 gigawatts later with more cables.
Right.
It's called Sila Atlantic Venture. It'll be led by energy industry veterans from a company called ENBW and Ørsted. It'll be owned and operated by Xlinks Germany. The project has reportedly attracted attention from major energy corporations, including E.ON, Uniper, and Octopus Energy. I've never heard of any of these companies. It's projected to cost up to $40 billion, a sum that will require government guarantees. I mean, that is a staggering amount of money for that, but it's just nuts. For German consumers, reduced electricity costs through increased supply. We all know that's kind of BS, though.
I don't know how do you reduce the cost of electricity that you're a continent away, right? And you're going to
at first. When I first read the article, I didn't even really catch on that it said Germany. I was thinking Morocco's selling. I immediately thought of Spain.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
I didn't even think of Germany. It's like I could see them selling the power to Spain. It's like Germany.
Yeah,
Germany.
well, that's why I had to put that in there, because you're going to run it across the Straits of Gibraltar, up, past Spain, the Spanish Gold, well, I guess it's not the Gold Coast. This particular is another part of the Spanish coast, but then Portugal, and then, the whole thing I traced. Holy smoke! And then, what is the problem that they've been having of late with these ghost ships, right? Cutting cables in the Baltic. So what's to prevent? And when I say ghost ships, what I'm referring to are the Russian, tanker ships that are transporting, basically embargoed oil to whoever wants to buy it. But in the process, they've caught those guys literally cutting the cables between let's say Scandinavia and Germany, for example, in the Baltic. What's the perfect 4,500 miles? I accidentally drugged my anchor while I was crossing through the Straits of Gibraltar, and I cut all the power to Germany.
Yeah, this. I don't know. We talk about this all the time. I talk about the economics of you as a retail end user. The electric company has a 10% max profit because they're a monopoly. Then you've got some cost to produce the energy, but then you got some cost for the infrastructure and transmission. And so even if they're able to sell this power for 3-4 cents, how much are they paying for it when it's leaving Morocco, or they're paying for it when it's arriving in Germany? Because those two numbers aren't the same.
Oh no, they're not going to be the same.
And it's probably.
But what are they paying right now in Germany? They've got to be what?
I don't know.
Probably someplace in the, I'm going to guess probably 25, 30, 40 cents. Yeah, a kilowatt. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Germany used to have nuclear, and they decided to get rid of it. And then they started buying nuclear from France. And so France exports nuclear energy to Germany, who Germany, to be good actors, got rid of their nuclear power.
I assume what they've done is they just simply mothballed it. I don't,
Yeah. Well, and those were all old style reactors. They were all Gen 2.
Yeah.
Some of the, like I said, a lot of that stuff does need to get replaced. Just a matter of when it gets replaced. But it just says lower network infrastructure expenses due to Morocco's reliable renewable generation patterns. I don't agree with that one. I call a little BS on lower infrastructure expenses. I mean, solar isn't expensive to put in compared to some other types of technologies.
Well, the basic energy is free. It's just the cost of collecting it.
Yeah. you do have some operating expense cost with solar,
Sure.
most of it related to just like dusting it off,
Yeah.
getting the dirt off of it.
Going into that the solar thermal array in the middle of the night and cleaning, because you don't want to be there when the
No.
sun's shining in the middle of that thing.
Yeah, well, when we were showing the one in India that was the largest solar farm in the world, I think it still is. It had the like robot
Right.
sweepers that went along and just
Right.
occasionally just broomed off
Yeah. The dust.
the
Yeah.
panel just using the solar power that it was already generating. So it was robotic. But it says enhanced power delivery to energy hungry southern Germany. I don't know. I mean, to me, they're getting it to northern Germany.
So now you got to go come in someplace around, Bremerhaven or something.
Yeah.
And then you got to transmit all the way down to Bavaria.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So some of the stuff in the article doesn't quite make sense. But
Es kostet sehr Geld. Sehr teuer.
Well, anyways, I mean, I thought that was an interesting article because that really does show you the possibilities with solar. Because in my mind, that's one of the challenges with solar is that it's hard to have it right where the energy is needed.
Yeah.
Because the solar farms are so large.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not that you couldn't build a data center out in the middle of nowhere and put the solar all around it, but that just doesn't quite happen.
Well, that too, and as they're discovering in Texas, all those data centers need also huge amounts of water.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
you got to build this thing somewhere where there is distilled water or at least water low in mineral content, and then power all that. So it's that's a problem that they're discovering down in Texas. They want all these data plants. Well, we have the same thing here. Fortunately, our water is relatively mineral free, and we've got the Platte over here, which flows fairly steadily, and of course the Missouri, which is a pretty steady source of energy. Yeah, it's just not a matter of powering these things; it's a matter of watering these things too.
Right. No, it's a big headache getting all of that to it. Okay, so there was an article about Leap Motor. I'm not even familiar with this Chinese company.
I
Leap
know.
Motor, it's 1 million EVs as European expansion accelerates. Like Leap
and
Motor.
They only started in 2017. That's when the company, got launched, was in 2017. And now here we are, 8 years later? And they've built their millionth vehicle. Just looking amazing. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, how do you think this compares like to your Chevy Bolt in appearance?
It's very similar.
Yeah, very similar looking vehicle.
Yeah. Yep.
This is the Leap Motor B10 electric SUV.
This is the one that they're going to be building in Zaragoza, Spain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they were assembling the one I really liked, which looked a lot like my Fiat 500e, except a 4-door. I think the C10 or something like that. They were building that at a factory in Poland. And apparently, for some reason, I didn't have time to look up the reason why they stopped manufacturing it. But they're going to be building the B10 in Zaragoza as part of this cooperation between them and Stellantis.
So, some people know that I do things creatively with a public company that I'm on the board of. That and this is kind of interesting. So, in 2023, Stellantis spent 1.5 billion of, I guess those are euros, to acquire a 20% stake in Leap Motor.
Mm-hmm.
Then they led to the formation of Leap Motor International, which is a joint venture with Stellantis that Stellantis owns 51% of. The venture was granted exclusive rights to export, sell, and manufacture Leap Motor vehicles outside of Greater China. So basically, Leap Motor in China is 80% Leapmotor Chinese.
Right.
When you go outside of China, it's Stellantis.
Yeah, it's the reverse.
Yeah, and I understand why they do it like this. So at 51%, Stellantis can report 100% of the income for Leapmotor on its numbers.
And Stellantis is I think Renault is the brand that is there, and of course they've also got Dodge and
They got
Ram
Peugeot.
and Jew. They have Peugeot. And of course
Fiat.
buy it. Well,
They own Fiat, Peugeot.
oh, Fiat. Okay, yeah. So, well, yeah, I got one of them up here. So, this is if these guys. The thing that makes the Chinese, they figured out how to build really interesting and relatively successful electric vehicles on the cheap, right? And Stellantis, while the Renault has had electric cars and Peugeot's had electric cars, most of which have been Korean or branded vehicles through their partnership with Nissan. This gives them another avenue to get into EVs without having to go to the same effort to build the engineering and all the manufacturing and distribution. So I think it's a smart, and they're attractive cars. They're not Xiaomi, U7s or whatever those things are. But
in 2 years, Stellantis has opened 600 sales and service locations across Europe alone for Leapmotor. 600.
600. Cool.
That's a lot of locations.
Yeah.
And they're going to expand that to 700 by the end of this year. That includes Ireland, Bulgaria, Central European nations such as the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Slovenia, Hungary, and Croatia. Yeah, that's for a company that I'm not familiar with, they just celebrated their 1 millionth EV.
Yeah.
And that's it's just so weird because we're so insulated here in the United States. Everybody, it's like people will ask, well, which one of the car companies owns Rivian? Which one of the car companies owns Lucid? It's like they're their own companies.
No, they're their own companies. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just funny because everybody thinks that they probably think the same thing about Tesla. Is Tesla a GM brand? Kind of thing. It's like people. It's hard for them to accept.
But we marinate in this, don't we? And me particularly, right? Is pretty well saturates every fiber in my body. So it's not like I'm, totally unaware of what's happening. It's my job to be aware of what's happening.
Right. No, I get that, but it is interesting to see the extent of what you and I know that people just don't. And
that's why EV World's out here and why
there
we're doing
educating
the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. And anyways, so Lucid delivers its first gravity robotaxi to Nuro for the Luber fleet.
Yeah.
So
now my question was, who the hell's Nuro? Right? Well, it's that company that builds those little runabout food carrier things that you see like in Phoenix and different places.
Yeah, well, they're an autonomous vehicle company. So Lucid's partnered with them, and this is supposed to be going to Uber for the Luber project. Yeah.
Tuber, Luber.
Yeah. Uber is investing $300 million into Lucid, with Robotaxi set to integrate into Uber's app starting next year. Despite supply chain setbacks and rivals pulling back on EVs, Lucid remains committed to a pure EV strategy and strong gravity demand. Could you imagine if Tesla or Lucid or Rivian just said, "Oh, we're going to start making some hybrids, or we're going to start just making some straight gas cars"? How weird that would be.
Yeah.
Like anybody would really trust that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, making electric vehicles, while it's challenging because there's so many fewer parts and supply chain, it's got to be really easier than actually making gas cars because you have so many fewer components, right?
Right.
And it just be crazy to think of them. It's like it's funny though. They sing this, the supply chain setbacks and rivals pulling back. It's the U.S. where people are pulling back. Although we do occasionally see some weird stuff in Europe, right? But with that, I think a lot of that is just the Chinese influence. There's just so many great options from Chinese companies now in Europe that it's hard for everybody to compete. Even Volkswagen's cut output at its German plants, because its EV sales have slowed down.
Yep.
And I think that's a challenge. I mean, you could see all of the traditional gas car companies go bankrupt at some point, and only the pure EV companies make it. But that wouldn't be that far-fetched.
Yep, that wouldn't be far-fetched at all, and that could happen. I probably won't be around to see it, but I imagine that could happen. Certainly within the lifetime of many of the people watching or listening to this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, all the big car companies have to make the transition, or they're going to go out of business.
Yeah, that's pretty well. That's pretty well. Despite what's going on in the Oval Office, this is the future, folks. It's happening. You're not going to stop it. It's inevitable.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to happen at some point. But anyways, that was good news coming from Lucid. They got some. Of course, still it's one prototype, right? It's not mass production, but no. I'm sure they can get there. All right. Let's see. So I always like to talk about vehicle to grid, okay? Because it's an exciting thing. It's one of the big solutions.
And we finally have a real world examples now.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we had the one we talked about with the school district in Chicago.
Right. Those are school buses.
Yeah. Right.
This is folks at home in their garage actually doing it.
Yeah. And here's Bobby. Another great reason to go EV. Gas prices rise because of war everywhere. You can power your house in emergencies, income from vehicle to grid.
Yep.
Well, and what he's talking about with vehicle to grid is you fill your battery up in the car when it's cheap. And then at times of the day, like from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., this is only in certain places like California, where energy has tiered pricing based on the time of day. But then you sell it back at the peak and you arbitrage and you make money off of selling energy at high prices and then refilling at low prices or refilling from solar or whatever. But a lot of this is with the vehicle to grid. Can we get whole, like municipalities operating and there be enough EVs? There still has to be a fair amount. It can't be, what we got now are just a few percent of how households have EVs. What we probably need, 20% of households have EVs to really make this work on a large basis. But a company called Sunrun, in conjunction with Ford and BGE, started a vehicle to grid test in July. Does it say where we're doing this? But they're doing
this is Baltimore.
F150
it's Baltimore. Baltimore. BGE is Baltimore Gas Electric or something like that.
Okay. Well, I remember Maryland was the first state to have some state regulations related to V2G. They're the only one so far that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So we're starting to see some EVs that have been designed from the ground up to be capable of bidirectional charging. F150 Lightning is a good example of this. So in this particular example, they're sending stored energy back into the grid between 5 to 9 p.m. on weekdays, earning them cash in the process. Sunrun, which provides home energy storage and solar solutions, started working with Baltimore Gas and Electric on the project last year. This summer, it expanded its work to include the nation's first residential vehicle-to-grid pilot with a trio of Lightning owners using Sunrun and Ford's home integration systems. Participants can earn up to $1,000 from the program, which runs until the end of this month. And that's beside the arbitrage piece. One of the Lightning owners is a guy named Morgan Grove. As a member of the Baltimore Commission on Sustainability, I'm excited to be an early adopter of this tech and participate in this vehicle-to-grid program with BGE and Sunrun. I bought the F-150 Lightning for several reasons, one of them being the ability to power our home during an outage. Now I can also earn money by sending energy directly to the grid. Because everybody's always talking about, well, can the grid handle all this? Because, essentially when you're charging an EV, it's probably similar power level 2 charging is pretty similar to air conditioning, right? As far as the power draw. And that's always been the great user of electricity since, the early 1960s, when, air conditioning first started becoming common. And anyways, this article doesn't get into great detail, and it's only a few vehicles, but
Yeah, it's it's only 3 at this point.
Yeah, but this is a sign of things to come. This is going to be a
Oh, yeah.
reality. And in reality, EVs will help load balance the grid, not be quite the same draw on the grid that,
Yeah.
people like to talk about in Congress or whatever. And it's just, a little bit different. Now, we've got another article on Uber. This one is Tesla and Uber.
Before we
ahead.
go on, let me, because what we're seeing with that Ford program and the V2G and so on is part of, I came across an article that talks about Nissan Talib. Now, does that ring a bell? May or may not. Does the term black swan ring a bell?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's where out of nowhere, for example, COVID-19 comes and hits. It wasn't expected, wasn't anticipated, but it had profound effect on the economy. So Nassim Taleb is the guy that wrote Black Swan. Mm-hmm. And it's a book I read years and years ago. He had another book, which I was only became aware of on this article, which came out in 2012, called Anti-Fragile. And what Anti-Fragile's argument is, that what got my attention was the article that came across was, are bike lanes really the future kind of a thing? And very sort of negative against this whole bike lane thing. The article wasn't about bike lanes, though. The article was about what communities need to do to become anti-fragile. And it's a fascinating thesis that he has. So what I did was because I was a little skeptical. Wait a minute, you're knocking bike lanes because they affect businesses? Having researched this over many, many years and so on, they don't. But anyway, what I did was I said, all right, where is Omaha, our town, on this spectrum that Taleb talks about, from becoming a resilient community that can withstand just about any kind of a shock that comes its way, to very fragile communities? Where are we? And so I asked Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, about this, analyze this for me. So if you're interested, there's an op-ed I've got on the site right now that's focused on the city of Omaha that looks at this issue. And it turns out that V2G is actually a component of what it would take to make a community anti-fragile. So I thought that would be a good way to sort of, if you will, segue into to what, in this case, what Copilot came up with under consultation with me. So anyway, if you're interested, there's already, and I think it applies to most communities, but I asked them specifically to look at Omaha and talk about Omaha. Where are we and what can we do? Is sprawl a problem? What about the trolley system that we're debating? Is that just a vanity project, or can it be much more? So I think it's an interesting read, and I think people will find it of value. So anyway, okay, moving on now.
Yeah, I don't think our trolley program is making Omaha any less fragile. So
well, we don't know that yet, but anyway, we'll agree to disagree.
All I know is it sure makes it a hassle to drive anywhere near where that is.
Well,
road construction
you'd
is
expect
so
that
bad.
with any project of that nature. You're tearing stuff up.
I know. It's just, there's so many roads between the inside loop and say about 50th, just south of Dodge. Everything is so hard to get.
Oh yeah.
From anywhere south of that construction up on the Dodge.
So just for people that aren't familiar, Omaha is a city that started on the river and then spread pretty much due west. And so most of all the traffic and movement and things move along that corridor, whether it be on Dodge Street or whether it be on I-80, whether it be on L Street and so on. Move along east, going to east direction. So what they did was, in planning this trolley, they said we're going to start it down in the downtown area, where we have all kinds of white collar jobs basically, and then any of the service jobs that go with it, and then it goes east and it goes past. Everybody's heard of Mutual of Omaha, right? Mm-hmm. So it goes past the Mutual of Omaha, which is a big employer, and then goes out west and terminates out around our University of Nebraska Medical Center, which is continually expanding thanks to people like the Buffetts and thanks to people like the Hollands and other people that have made a lot of money in Omaha and have turned around and begun to share that with the city. So we've got, opera or, theaters named for, after the Hollands, and civic centers named after the Hollands and Buffetts and things. So that's the idea, is to link all of that sort of activity area from downtown along the river to basically the center, not quite the center of Omaha, but further out to the west, where we're linking those sort of major educational and employment centers. And then hopefully people begin to start building along that. And that'll be either good or bad, depending on whether, where you live there. But if you got to go down there and drive down there, as Dave points out, it's a hassle. In fact, I'm going down there in about an hour's time.
Yeah, one of the big draws for that is that it's supposed to make it easier for like the College World Series to catch the trolley and take it down to the stadium and all that. But there's not a lot of good places to park along a trolley route either. But hopefully, that'll, hopefully some of that'll balance out somewhere.
Yeah, it will in time. Yeah.
Anyways, so this next article is about Tesla and Uber it says game-changing partnership to launch a new product. And this is actually about Tesla semi-trucks. So Uber Freight is part of Uber, and they are offering subsidies to fleet owners who purchase new Tesla semi-trucks. Yeah. An announcement for Uber Freight states that the program guarantees consistent pre-planned shipping routes, providing trucking companies with reliable income to help offset the cost of their new rigs. For businesses, this could mean significant savings on fuel and maintenance. For consumers, it means a potential for lower prices and cleaner air, as the electric trucks produce no tailpipe pollution in communities. So this is kind of an interesting piece. We don't really see a lot of news on the Tesla semis. No. I mean, it's a quiet part of Tesla. But they are ramping up production of the semi at a new factory in Nevada. One fleet operator praised the Tesla semi's astonishing performance in a 6,000-mile trial, while another pilot program found the trucks were pushed well beyond expectations. I thought to see if it gives us any real.
So what's Uber's? I mean, I can understand where Uber might have a fleet of cars that they lease to drivers, and that is that. Yeah,
this is completely unrelated to the basic Uber thing. This is simply a part of Uber that's basically a freight broker, and which I find kind of fascinating.
Who's the? What's the trucking company that does that? They have a racing team. Come on, why can't I? Anyway, okay, moving on.
Just kind of an interesting piece.
Penske.
Penske. Okay.
Penske. Okay, so like a Penske kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. So I found this article on LinkedIn I want to talk about. Somebody was just saying renewable energy. This is a guy named Tom Steyer, and he is saying renewable energy is crushing it in the real economy, but losing it in the attention economy. In the attention economy.
Is that the Tom Steyer, the billionaire, whom I have met? Was running for president at one point?
Oh, I don't really know much about
I
Tom.
think it sounds like Tom. Yeah,
Out
Tom
of San
Steyer.
Francisco?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he maybe did. He sure does have a lot of followers. He's got 30,000 followers on LinkedIn.
yeah. I think that's probably Tom. He was
Yeah.
running at one point. Not really for president, but he was drumming up a lot of sort of political interests on a tour, and he
Okay.
came here to Omaha, and I had a chance to talk to him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Um, he says in the attention economy, the loudest voices are often those clinging to the 20th century solutions. A singular speech at the UN on Tuesday got more attention than all of Climate Week combined. But in the real economy, clean energy is cheaper,
Yep.
faster, and winning
Yep.
decisively when competing on a level playing field.
Yep.
And he says, just look at Texas. In the attention economy, political leaders double down on fossil fuels. In the real economy, the state has quietly become America's largest wind producer and a national leader in solar. Why? Because renewables are the cheapest, fastest way to keep the lights on in a growing economy. The real economy doesn't care about ideology, it just cares
Yep.
about what works. And
Yep.
there's a lot of truth to this. And
That's
I see
what we've
this.
been saying, isn't it? It is the politics. It's the dineros, amigo.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to.
What is interesting is I've come across, and I put them on the website. There's some stories now that you have these energy executives who don't at all agree with what the administration is doing. In fact, I think one article is entitled "They're heading for the doors as fast as they can."
Hmm. Yeah. Well, it's definitely there's definitely a lot of bias towards fossil fuels in the current administration, and I don't see why energy is such a political issue, other than, like I always say, the failure of Solyndra leaves an awful lot of taint in the clean energy space. And to think that happened a long time ago, it wasn't
Oh
even.
God, that
I
was
mean, that was
yeah,
like 2010.
yeah.
Okay, I mean, we're talking 15 years ago, and Tesla didn't even exist then, or at least not
Well,
in
it
terms
did.
of it
It
did.
it
It just
did,
didn't have
but
the Model S yet. Didn't have any
no,
production
no,
cars.
no.
Yeah. So I have this other one about TELO trucks. TELO has,
Yeah,
which is
this
the
is
little,
interesting.
yeah, their little trucks, has secured $20 million in Series A funding
From guess who?
um, from Mark Tappening from
Yep,
Tesla. They're,
original co-founder of Tesla. Yep, Mark. Yep.
yeah. Um, yeah. So
And he
the
calls it the anti-cyber truck.
there you go. It's uglier in a different way. It's only 152 inches long, so that's less than 14 feet, or no, less than 15 feet. But somehow it still is able to seat 5 passengers and have a 5-foot bed.
Right.
Um,
Well, we talked about this last time. It was under a different title, but
yeah,
yeah.
they're targeting a base price of 41,500. The only problem, with that is it's not going to be competitive with whatever Ford's coming out with, and it's not competitive
Well,
with like the Ford Maverick, and it's going to be smaller though. But I don't see people wanting to pay more for something like that.
well, they may. I'm sure.
No, look,
Will they?
I wish them success, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I think they've got a hard road, um, trying to get anything there. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That is dirty air. Or the 18-wheelers. Yeah.
or
And you don't
or
want to be
or
around a
or a
truck
truck
stop.
stop where
Yeah.
the guys are parked next.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Hope
certainly
they
a
got
different
air
odor.
filters on their sleeper cabs.
Yeah. There you go. But it is a smaller EV. I mean, it's the size of a Mini Cooper.
Yeah,
It's just hard to
a
fathom.
pickup the size of a Mini Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly got its usefulness. All right. My last article for today is on China greening the global south. So
Mm-hmm.
China is really putting money out
Oh,
and
God.
investment in green energy projects in, South Asia, in Africa.
Africa. Yep.
Yeah. And let's see, it's foreign investment in green technology in the past 3 years is about 227 billion. In the past year alone, it was about 138 billion. Now, to achieve net zero by 2050 requires a staggering 7 billion a year in renewable investments across the world. And 24 had a record investment of $2 trillion. So it's still coming up 5 trillion short on what is necessary to achieve net zero by 2050. The 5 trillion shortfall increases the number for next year and the years afterwards every year below 7 trillion, and will soon be 8 trillion a year, then 9 trillion. And to compare it to the Marshall Plan, where the US basically rebuilt Europe and Japan, in today's dollars, that would have been 130 billion. So
so we're not even approaching the scale of the Marshall Plan here.
Well, no, we're well beyond the Marshall Plan, but this what I'm getting at is there's 2 trillion being spent, which is so much bigger than the Marshall Plan was, but they're looking for 7 trillion.
Oh, trillion. I'm sorry. I was hearing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just trillions. Yes. My dogs are unhappy about this.
They heard me. No, they couldn't hear me. You got headphones on. Okay.
Sometimes I remember to put them up. Sometimes I don't.
Well, we were getting near the end here anyway, so
yeah. So, folks, sorry about the dogs chiming in. I'm sure there's a horrible threat outside, but it's usually something. Sometimes it's a squirrel taunting them. So, it could be most anything. Anyways, thanks, Bobby.
Hey, thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it. Hey, Bobby, I appreciate your filling in for me while I was enjoying the beautiful Pacific Northwest. So thank you.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks for chiming in today. Bill and I will be back on Tuesday. Otherwise, folks, have a great weekend. See y'all soon.